So Alex, you have a question about some feedback on niche. Okay, so here's the niche. This is the articulation. I help sensitive people who get cracked by the weight of the world, struggling with lack of belonging, stuckness, feel more connected with their bodies and others, more alive and more aligned with their purpose through depth, psychotherapy, and ancestral healing. Okay, so there's a number of thoughts here. One is uh, for anyone who has the highly sensitive thing as a niche, you might want to go on YouTube and just search Tad Hargrave, highly sensitive people, something like that. There's a video where I speak about the use of that title, which I think may be instructive, so I won't go into that here. Just to say that ends up not being as niched as we often think it is. Okay, but to get cracked by the weight of the world, I like that. It's very evocative. It's a metaphor, yeah. Nobody's actually physically cracked, but we imagine
Or
what's
crashed.
happening.
Cracked or crashed could work both ways.
I can't hear you at all.
Oh, cracked or crashed could work
Or
too.
crushed. Okay. But, um, the okay. So that part grabs me because I get the symptom of it. Somebody who feels cracked or crushed by the weight of the world. I don't know exactly who it is, but there's an evocativeness where I can connect with it. Then it gets into what I would say is probably diagnosis point of view. So they're struggling with a lack of belonging or stuckness. And the question is always this: are they aware of it? Would they use these words? When they come to us, are they saying, I'm really struggling with this lack of belonging? Or might they say, I just feel so lonely? Or might it be, I feel like I don't belong anywhere. How would they say it? Is this question. And is this a symptom or is this our diagnosis? Because when we're articulating who we're trying to reach, if the language that we're using is diagnosis based, they just don't see themselves in it. If I were to say, are you dehydrated versus do you have frequent headaches or something?
Yeah.
We can connect with that second one, but the first one, we're not sure. How would I know if I'm dehydrated? So am I struggling from a lack of belonging or stuckness? And then also stuckness is, one could connect that word to almost any problem one could have. So stuck in what way, with what? Stuck in a relationship, stuck in their career, stuck in the direction, stuck in the, we don't have to pick a terrain, but it's good to know that's available and can bring clarity. And then here's more trouble. So feel connected with their bodies and others. So this is what we call island B, the result that they're craving, except my guess is they're not saying, almost nobody's coming to us saying, if I could just feel more connected to my body. It's useful thinking as a metric, a rubric, a kind of guideline. Are they lying awake at 3 a.m. thinking about this in these words? Is anyone there at 3 a.m. saying, God, I just wish I was more connected to my body? Probably not. But so all is not lost with this. Because what we can say is, okay, if somebody is struggling with a lack of belonging, if that's really what's going on underneath the surface, what are the symptoms that they would likely experience? If they really are struggling with stuckness, what symptoms would show up as a result of that? If they are disconnected from their bodies, what are the symptoms of that? And there are probably going to be a lot of symptoms, but then you can look at those symptoms and say, these are the symptoms that I most want to help people with. And similarly, they feel more connected with others. I don't know if they would say that. I just want to feel more connected with others, or is it I want more friends, or is it I'm lonely and I want to be in a relationship and dating, or is it I really want to build a community or of like-minded people. I wonder how they would say it, right? And then to feel more alive, more aligned with their purpose. Again, my guess is they're not. Maybe we have to really listen to what they're saying. Are they coming to us saying, I just want to feel more alive? If so, perfect. And if not, it's well, how do they word that? What is their experience of wanting to feel more alive? One question, one of my favorite niching questions as well around the island B, around the result. which may be helpful here, Alex, is um, who do they envy and why?
Mm.
Because maybe they envy these bohemian types who can just travel around the world, but the bohemian types might envy the people who have a home and stability, or but once you know who they envy and you can start to figure out why, that tells you a lot about what they're craving. And this is what's so important. Island A is not the diagnosis. Island A is their symptoms, the painful things that they're now at a breaking point of this must change and I need help. And then the result is this thing they're craving, they're yearning for. And none of us yearn for anything abstract. Isn't that interesting? Nobody's just saying, I just wish I had connection. I wish I had balance, or there's certain things that are so ephemeral. We actually don't crave it. But you're out at a restaurant and you see the dessert on another table and you crave that. You see somebody walk by who catches your eye and you're yearning for them. You get the idea. Somebody burns down their career, does the eat, pray, love thing, and oh God, I envy them. Okay, why? What is it about it that you envy? And then you start to find out what people really crave. And then if you can help somebody to achieve the thing they're craving, of course, they're going to be happy about that. Again, more aligned with their purpose is probably our diagnosis. But again, with this too, we can say, if somebody is really not aligned with their purpose, what are the symptoms that they begin to experience? What happens in their life that they would be aware of, that they would notice that would be painful for them? Yeah. What are the things you might find yourself craving if you were not in alignment with your purpose? And then it's interesting. Normally I say, don't talk about the boat, our modalities to get them from island A to island B. But in this case, it's very interesting. And sometimes what we're known for is the journey that we take people on. And for most service providers, that's the one I'd lean on. I help people get from island A to island B. And sometimes it is the boat, and it's often a combination. But Alex, I would just say it's good that you put that in there and keep that in there. Because if you met somebody at a party and they said, what do you do? If you said, I do depth psychotherapy and ancestral healing, that alone would have your people lean in. They would say, oh my God, do you? I've been so interested in this and I've heard about it, or I've always wanted to find somebody. Your people will probably recognize those terms. And if you strip it away, there might be nothing to grasp onto. So you could just say, how there are really sensitive people out there and they just get cracked by the weight of the world. I just help those people. And I use depth psychotherapy, ancestral healing. That could be enough. But I think if you start to dig into the symptoms of the other things and weave that back in, and I would do the puttering prep stuff if you can, because I think it may also help the wording. But again, for everybody, it's always good to go back to this question of, okay, so we have somebody who's sensitive, who gets cracked by the weight of the world. Is that the moment where they'd come to me? Is this must change and I need help? Is it after that and they're recovering? Like, what is this perfect moment and what's happening? And to get as specific as we can. So for example, the difference between being cracked by the weight of the world and did your husband just serve you with divorce papers? Or did they blindside you with divorce? You see what I'm saying? That's a very specific moment. Cracked by the weight of the world is a bit more image-based, symbolic-based. So if we can get a very real, tangible thing, I think people are more likely to see the relevance of it. Did you get a cancer diagnosis from the doctor? Did you just lose all your money in crypto? Sorry if that's too soon for some people. Did you just meet somebody and fell in love and you don't know what to do? But like, there's all these moments. Are you at the moment in your relationship where should I stay or should I go? That's a moment. So the closer we can get to some real tangible moment in somebody's life, I think the more likely they are to see themselves. And I will say, sometimes you can come up with a metaphor that just hits the note so clean that your people say, I don't even understand what you mean exactly, but that's me, I think, and they lean in. A lot of this we just have to test and see how people respond, and is it working? So, Alex, that's my rant. Any thoughts, reflections from you?
Well, I mean, I'm quite, yeah, coming closer. Can you hear me now? Yeah,
Yeah, it's keep going.
strange. Um, so yeah, it's interesting because I spent the first 2 years of my practice really focusing on the boat, and now I'm starting to think of like the people, but it's interesting to like receive the feedback of like, oh, maybe sometimes the boat is important.
Oh man, it is. The thing is, where I would say the boat becomes more important is there's a sweet spot for the boats. I don't know if I've ever said this before. I'm just trying to think it through. It seems to me that the sweet spot for a boat is it's well enough known, like people know what it is. It's not like you're naming a modality and people just are blank, like they've never heard about this thing before. It's that well known, but it's not everybody does it. Like if you're at a party and somebody says, "What do you do?" I'm a yoga teacher. There's nobody at the party that's, "Oh my God, that's amazing. I've been looking for something like you." What do you do? I'm a life coach. Holy shit. I've been spending the last decade trying to find a life coach. You're the first one I met. You see, there's a sweet spot. So if you look at what you're doing, and like what was another example? Was it in integral family systems, integrated family systems, IFS,
IFS, internal
internal, thank you,
family systems.
internal family systems. Right. There was somebody who was doing that, and I don't know if it got on Oprah, but it kind of hit the big time for a while. And anyone who was training in that, who was on the directory, just had an easy time for a while. It was the gravy train. And hey, if there's a gravy train coming by, I mean, hop on board. Don't, I'm not poo pooing the gravy train, but it doesn't last forever because now more and more people do it. I mean, Daniel Four keeps kicking out these new ancestral healing, people every year, and suddenly there's more and more.
I
So
know.
yes, this is how it is. So it's just good to know where you are in the arc of things and how much to feature it. If it's well enough known that it's a thing, but not so well known that everybody's doing it, and then I would feature it pretty heavily. But if it's too soon or too late on that arc, I would probably just put it in the back.
Right.
There you go. Good to see you, man.
Thanks, man. Good to see you too. Take care.